So tonight's video is really just to bring your attention to an excellent video on Whereswally's channel. It is one of the best examples of research I have seen in more than 4 years of dealing with flat earthers. In his video, Wally analyses hundreds of airports all around the world, comparing runways with an east-west orientation to those that run north-south. He looks at the length of the runway and the coordinates at each end of the runway, which are very accurately known. And the results of his analysis are extremely bad news for flat Earth. So to help you understand why his results are clear evidence supporting the globe, we're just going to revise latitude and longitude again. As you know, we can use latitude and longitude to define accurate positions on the Earth. The lines of latitude are quite different to the lines of longitude. The Earth's equator is the datum for latitude, with a latitude of 0. The lines of latitude are equally spaced north and south of the equator, reaching a latitude of 90 south at the South Pole and 90 north at the North Pole. The lines of longitude are at their widest spacing apart at the equator, and then they converge towards the South Pole and towards the North Pole. And this difference is the basis for understanding the results of Wally's analysis. As we can see here, the equator has the largest circumference of any of the lines of latitude. As we move further away from the equator, each line of latitude has a smaller circumference. Better visualized like this. And this is where it gets interesting, because if we know the distance around the Earth at the equator, using basic trigonometry, we can very accurately determine the size of any other line of latitude. It is essentially using the cosine function with the cosine of the latitude. And this is why. Imagine this line is the radius of the Earth's equator. 0 degrees of latitude here, moving up to 90 degrees of latitude at the poles. At any intermediate point, for example, this red dot, the distance from this line directly out to that point will form the radius of that line of latitude. And that is a cosine relationship. So if we look at the cosine of the latitude and multiply it by the radius of the Earth at the equator, it will give us the radius of that line of latitude. So to calculate the circumference of any line of latitude, we take the distance around the Earth at the equator, that is 21,600 nautical miles, and multiply it by the cosine of the latitude. So let's summarize. Latitude and longitude. They define locations on the Earth accurately. Latitude spacing is consistent. 1 degree of latitude equals 60 nautical miles. Longitude spacing is maximum at the equator. 1 degree of longitude equals 60 nautical miles at the equator only. The longitude spacing reduces towards the poles by the cosine of the latitude. The cosine of 30 is 0.866. The cosine of 45 is 0.707. And the cosine of 60 is 0.5. So the key to understanding Wally's analysis is knowing that the longitude spacing reduces towards the poles by the cosine of the latitude. If we look at an aviation chart, this one is Honolulu Airport in Hawaii. We can see that it has 2 runways running east and west. We know accurately the distance, and we also know the precise coordinates at each end of the runway. Any real pilot will understand the importance of knowing accurate runway distances and coordinates for each runway threshold. Even a private pilot who has not flown for 40 years can't argue with the accuracy of this data. Anyone trying to bust the globe really has nowhere to go with this one. So I won't steal his thunder and give away the punchline here, but I'll place a link to his video in the description below. Please head over to his channel and show him your support. It really is one of the best flat earth debunking videos I have ever watched.